Hey, my name is Heidi, and today I wanted to talk to you about the three most common mistakes that I see many women make when it comes to this elusive thing called balance. For a modern woman living in the modern world, regardless of your age, regardless of your starting point searching for balance, I want to cover these three things. I've spent more than 10,000 hours in a room one-on-one intensively coaching women towards finding more balance, whether they're completely burnt out and broken or whether they're just on a journey to kind of reconnect with themselves. Those 10,000 hours I've spent not just in a one-on-one session where people walk in and walk out. If people come to see me, it's 7 days in bed with me, literally, where for 12 to 15 hours a day at my retreat, I get to observe from a different point of view or perspective to most therapists, where we're actually in a retreat environment where for the whole day and the evening I'm getting to observe. And those 10,000 hours are not just spent in a coaching environment. I've watched women on a yoga mat. I've watched them on a meditation cushion. And also through obviously talking and therapy and walking and waterfalls and all of the things that we do on retreat. I have a different perspective and a bird's eye view of women who have reached the point of, burnout and stress at kind of pretty extraordinary levels. So I want to talk to you about the three main things that I've observed that keep popping up when we're chasing this sort of slippery eel of balance. And the first thing that pops up is hardness on the self. So I think it comes down to a lot of masculine hats or roles that we wear in modern day society as women. So there are masculine and feminine roles, whether we like it or not, and we might fight against them and think that we can wear these masculine boots, which our, mothers and our grandmothers fought for us to have equal rights. But the trade-off of having, and I know my mother said to me, you can have it all, you can do it all, you can have the career, you can travel, you can have your babies, which was fantastic because I was chasing something that I was very aware that, wasn't available to her, growing up in the 50s and the 60s. And so I kind of felt with everything that she worked for that is something that I had to chase. But it also means the trade-off is wearing a lot of masculine pants, and masculine roles are things like being the provider, the hunter, and organizing, believe it or not, planning, doing, and taking most of the responsibility. And the feminine roles, where, if we go back 20, 30, 40, 50 years, was nurturing, supporting, guiding, and all of these, the softness, providing the softness. And one of the feminine roles is also creativity. So with these hats that we're wearing, we've now jumped into the race in this day and age of women, which is fabulous, of having more and being a part of, being the provider. What it's produced is actually a whole lot of hardness and pressure on women to fill both roles. And this is something that I really had to pull myself up on and look deeply into. And I'm not saying that we can't plan, organize, do, progress, and I'm not saying revert back to the women in the 50s and the 60s, but at some point we have to kind of recognize these hats that we're wearing and the trade of a softness, that comes with filling those boots, essentially, or wearing those hats. Naturally, we are more soft, we are more nurturing, we're more creative, we're more supportive, we are the loving forces of the universe. And if we take out that softness on the planet, from a political perspective, from a community perspective, from a family perspective, then it's not a good thing. It's really not a good thing. So how do we maintain being both? How can we still progress and still maintain our creative spirit, our supportive self? And that means being supportive of ourselves. I think what happens is that we think that by being hard on ourselves, that we're going to be able to keep up. We're going to be able to strive and drive, but that means losing self-kindness and compassion. And these are feminine traits, to be kind and compassionate. And they're also masculine traits, but they're more yin or feminine traits. And in fact, it's the opposite. We can still progress in our own careers, in our own lives, with our own sense of self, as well as remaining kind and compassionate and soft towards ourselves. So the number one thing that I see show up with so many women is this whipping and hardness on ourselves. And it's like breaking your own heart, when you're really that hard on yourself. And it really actually diminishes our capacity to go after everything that we want, because we're doing it in a way that's unnatural to us. So there is actually a way to still have it all without losing ourselves along the way. And I've probably read with contact forms, inquiry forms, and health forms from all of the different people that I've coached and have applied for my retreat program. I don't know, hundreds of applications. And the one sentence that shows up is, I want to find myself again. It shows up over and over in the wording, and I ask many questions in our application forms. And that I want to find myself again comes up over and over. And what women are really seeking and looking for is this deep connection to the feminine aspects of themselves, the presence and the joy and the softness. And they're looking for it in all the wrong places. And we can find joy in our jobs. We can find joy in external things, but really what's deeply missing is this connection to the self that is quite soft. The second thing that shows up is we are time poor. And this is a reality. I'm not saying that we're actually not poor on time. However, the amount of things that I see women trying to do in one day is semi-ridiculous. It's actually quite scary. If we're taking on all these hats and these roles. And when I look back at what I used to try and do, with a couple of the little crashes that I've had in my life, it's also scary and downright crazy. There is actually more time than we think. Creating more space and time comes down to solutions-based thinking. The lack of time that we have, if we really use and exercise our ability to take responsibility and think about the choice that we have somewhere along the line set life up this way. And it can be so different. It can be so different. What we need to be able to rectify this time issue is support and innovation. And we need outside eyes sometimes to look at what we're doing and go, hey, that's really ridiculous. And it's a new set of eyes over our life. We need to have someone that reminds us to inject soul time into our weeks, into our days. We need to lift the limitations on it must be hard for us to progress because our mothers from the past generation were like, work hard to, gain a sense of recognition, in a very male-orientated world. However, if you really drill down on your skills and you really look closely at your passions and your purpose and know what that really is, because it's already sitting right there in front of you, then it is entirely possible to shift and change your schedule, and I have to do this, and I have to, and remove that vocabulary to be more about I want to, and I don't want to do this, and I am going to fuel this, and I am going to bring the joy, I am going to bring the dreams, I am going to bring the passion and the purpose, I'm going to utilize my skills. Because when you start doing that, all of a sudden you might not have to kill yourself or pretend to be Superwoman to actually get where you want to go. And I see so many women, with the time issue. It's actually got nothing to do with time. It's about the fact that they play small, and they're making it harder than it needs to be, because there is always room to move. There is always solutions. It's actually a lot easier than you think to be able to create more time and utilize, your hands, your heart, your mind to be able to go out in the world and do something in a different way that's going to alleviate the pressure and alleviate the hardness and alleviate this I have to do a ridiculous amount of things in one day. And then all of a sudden, the time that you need for yourself to be able to grow into that soft person, to be able to surrender, to be able to have that connection with yourself shows up. Okay, so the third thing I want to talk about is self-care tools. We either don't have them, we don't know what they are, or we don't know where to look for them, or we are so overwhelmed and busy as it is that going out and looking for ways for self-help, like ways to help ourselves, to find that softness, that connection, that joy, it can be like another full-time job. There is a lot of information on the internet, and I call it, the Insta coaches, or the online coaches and things that I see, that just a lot of, A, they don't have experience, B, they have no credibility, C, a lot of what they offer is just pretty pictures and complete fluff. So weeding through all of that, believe me, I've spent 20 years not just coaching people, but the last decade coaching, but before that, myself looking for all those tools and putting them into a process, and then refining and weeding out the fluff and the silliness and the downright unhealthy advice that's out there. So these self-care tools that we're looking for, whether it's what we want to eat for dinner, a lot of the goals as well that a lot of these coaches are setting are unattainable. They have these amazing bodies and these amazing lives, and it just seems like such a job to even get started on self-care. And the thing is that, it can kind of be like stabbing in the dark, but there is such good information out there, and the key is to actually have it all in one place. The key is to have accountability and support in one place, and to make sure that information is solid, and not just solid, in a language you can actually understand, that the everyday woman is not aiming for a six-pack and and these kind of ridiculous images that are building now in social media and online about what women can be and look like, that are completely unrealistic. If you have a job, if you have children, a house to maintain, like, a lot of the information out there is completely unrealistic. So it's more about self-care tools which are available but all in one place, solid knowledge, and in bite-sized chunks, and with people that are really resonate and know their stuff. And I've literally spent half my life looking for these people and kind of bringing them into one place. I've been lucky enough to work with over 50 different health professionals in different fields on my retreat, and I've learnt to have an awesome radar for the BS and the fluff. So anything that I provide, I've combed through it. And, I think this self-care, like, we understand what it is and what we should be trying to go after, but the meaning of it and making it a reality can be really difficult. And this is where I find, you know, a lot of clients are leeching energy and time, is they're just trying so many different ways to help themselves, but they actually need a process that's put in the right order, which is really key. So what I want to know is whether you're making any, you know, I don't want to call it mistakes because it makes it sound like you're doing something wrong, but with those 3 areas of not having the tools, not knowing where to look, the way you've set up your life to be time poor, and whether you're being really hard on yourselves, like in terms of your stress, in terms of balance, in terms of grabbing hold of that slippery eel of balance. And by balance, I don't mean just balance, a balanced schedule. I mean beyond that. I mean like all of the juicy good stuff in life. I want to know, you know, what are the areas that, you know, you need to work on. And the most important thing now is to stop and actually assess, and to look for a proven process to follow. The thing is that if any one of those 3 areas, and you'll see this in my balance quiz that I have on my site, it will actually show you on a percentage level how close you are to balance, or how far away, or how really, you know, how well you're doing. On a percentage, if any one of those 3 areas is out of, you know, we're not working in those areas properly, then you have less than a 25% chance of actually maintaining any kind of balance, let alone what comes beyond that, which is the joy and the fun, you know, that we're missing out on. And the world is changing so fast, it's not getting any slower. I feel like every year things speed up with the amount of extra stuff we have to do. And you have to ask yourself, you know, can I take the time to stop and reassess? Can I take the time to just stop trying to be Superwoman for a moment and reassess where my life is headed? Like, can I have this self-reflection time to assess my stress levels, my health, and my happiness? Because you have to ask yourself, if you don't, in 6 months, 12 months, 1 year, as things speed up and our responsibilities mount as we get older, where are you going to be? You know, on the flip side, I know that, you know, I know women, they have ample time to play. They have the income that they want. They have the time to themselves that they want. And they're still mothers and they're still running businesses. You know, they have time to focus on their soul's desires and their dreams and what drives them. They have time for loved ones, time to nourish their bodies. And I know this because I got them there. I know this because I know them, you know, and I've seen that miraculous turnaround in like record time. So what I want you to do today is take the time to reassess. And I have a balance quiz on my site that I use with all of my clients that actually helps you assess each life area. You'll know when you're going through the quiz, you'll be like, ooh, that life area. I have other videos on, you know, holistic health and holistic balance, and so many videos on my website that you can take a look at. But yeah, starting this quiz it's going to give you that, you're going to hit the stop button and you're going to assess, and you're going to look forward, and doesn't matter what your score is. In the score section, I help guide you towards how many life areas you need to work on and what they should be, because if we make small changes in one small area, then it has this amazing butterfly effect on other areas. So whatever your score is, it doesn't matter. The whole point is to actually start the journey. So the balance quiz takes about 2 minutes. And at the end of that balance quiz, what you'll see, if you really are looking for tools in more life areas, you'll see the exclusive sign up for my balance video series. So these videos, you can't find them on YouTube or on my website. They specifically focus on the breakdowns towards balance and stress and burnout, and what mindset it is that we need to cultivate to start this journey. And don't forget, it never takes as long as we actually think. So there's lots of little bite-sized tools and tips that won't overwhelm you, no matter how time poor you are, no matter how exhausted, no matter how much information you've looked at before. That it's bite-sized tips and tools and things, that you can actually put into practice very quickly. And the reason I put this together is that because I spent so long in mental health, kind of working intensively on the front line, at the end of the line, when we've already gone past stress and balance, and we're heading towards anxiety, depression, on pretty severe levels. And I decided to stop. I had to stop and reassess and go, okay, if I really want to make a profound dent in this, I have to catch it before it gets to that point. And give you the awareness and the tools that you need before it gets to that point. So that's why I created this balance series, to be able to give you the awareness and get you started on the journey. Because without the awareness and the education, you won't start anything. You will not have the drive if you don't have the education. So take a little bit of time to fill out that quiz. It literally takes 2 minutes. It will give you a lot of little light bulb moments in your mind where you're like, okay, that area, and how you can just start to shift and change gently in one area to see the butterfly effect. Those videos are there for you if you want them. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you have a wonderful day.